Hey guys, Ampro here. Today we're going to be doing the FPS tutorial part 2. It will cover basic hit scan raycasting, recoil, damage, and basic sanity checks. I'm doing hit scan for this video instead of projectile because I saw a lot of people struggling with raycast projectiles from previous videos. But before I get into it, make sure you guys subscribe and like the video for more content like this. We're pretty close to 5k, so stay tuned for a special video. And that's about it, so let's get started. I'm gonna show you guys how it's gonna look real quick. So there you go. It's like a laser. It's pretty instant. The VFX are temporary, and as you can see, there's actually a recoil pattern. There's also a pretty cool feature, and that's when you shoot, it'll return your crosshair back to the initial spot. So if I shoot a little bit, see how it returns back to where the spray began. Pretty cool feature, and it has to do with the springs. This also fully replicates and does damage. As you can see, this dummy is taking damage. Just a little bit though. I'll just replay this. And you'll see that there's actually headshot damage. So, body shot, little bit of damage. Headshot, a lot more damage. You see, I only shot him like 4 times and he's 1 tap. So let's get into the script. We're actually going to put our script in the starter player script, and that's just simply manage our debris stuff, and it's more efficient since we only keep 1 view model. Since we've changed the initial loading of the script, what do we change? So first we're going to change our declaration of the character. The character is now just going to be our player, character added weight, and this is going to be character equal humanoid is wait for child humanoid instead of directly referencing it, since humanoid may not have been instantiated where our character is made. So we also need to update this every time we get a new character. So the easiest way we're going to do that is just add a little function down here, player.characterAdded, connect function character. Basically, this is an event and we're connecting to it, we're adding a hook to it, and whenever it fires, we run this function that's here. Our character becomes player.character, or you could just simply do it as character. You know what, it's probably better if we do it like this. And our humanoid is equal to, once again, character wait for child humanoid, since humanoid may not be created as soon as our character is created. So now every time we die, these will reset and become our new character and our new humanoid. Alright. That's pretty cool and stuff, but let's now do the bullet. So I'm going to give you guys the VFX that I used for the bullet. It's nothing too fancy, it's all temporary, but there's a little flash particle, a spotlight, a bullet with a beam texture that I drew, and a random bullet hole texture that I found. So if you want to be more organized, you can, but for the sake of this video, I'm just going to shove everything inside the script. You could probably do it better if you put a folder here and call it effects or something. And speaking of effects, we're going to add a folder here, and we're just going to call this folder effects. I think I called it effects, all caps. Alright, so we gotta do a couple things first before we can render our bullets. There's recoil, camera movement, all that. So how do we do that? Well, it's the same way that we did our camera swaying and all that. So there's going to be a recoil spring, and that's going to be for simply the recoil, and there's also going to be a gun spring, and that's going to be the kick for the gun. So I'm going to put those 2 springs right here, gun spring, recoil spring, and we're also going to need a lot more values for not only recoil but also status. I don't know why I said it like that. So let's put all of these in here. Auto is just if the gun is full auto. CD is cooldown. This gun shoots pretty fast. Can shoot is can it shoot right now. Shooting is just a state. Range is the maximum range of the raycast. Kick is how much you want the gun to kick back. And this is the initial recoil, if I'm not wrong. And then reset recoil, that's how long it takes to reset our recoil. And then OOC is how long it takes to fully be out of control. REC is just a little, you're still a little bit in control of the gun. So basically it takes 1 second for real recoil, random recoil to take place, and then 2 seconds for the gun to just go totally out of control. And then here are some recoil values. It's just a range from minimum to maximum. So -1 to 1, -2 to 2, -4 to 4. As you can see, the increment grows bigger, so it's kind of exponential. You can change these values however you want. And then this, the recoil dampener, is just if you had like a suppressor on the gun or something, or you have like a setting as to is the gun on low recoil mode or something, I don't know. Usually it's going to be a suppressor, but if you want to dampen your recoil, you can set this to a higher number than 1. But as 1, that's basically no suppressor, and everything is totally normal. So whenever we do raycasting and stuff, we always use raycast params. So I'm just gonna get that ready as well. New raycast params, filter type is blacklist. It's just the ray is gonna ignore the things that we put in the list. So it's gonna ignore our view model, which is our arms and stuff and gun. Obviously, it's gonna ignore our character. It's also gonna ignore the workspace.effects. So this thing right here, we also gotta do something about it. We want to make sure that our params are getting updated, right? So here we go. Let's go from filter descendant instances, and you see we have character. Let's update that too. So now our own cast should be ignoring all of that. Great. Let's come up with a good way to do this. All right, let's go to input began, and as you can see, we have our aiming thing right here. Else if, oops, I can't spell. Else if our input, the user input type is equal to enum.user input type.mouse button 1, so that's left click, then we should start shooting, right? So a couple things we're gonna do. We're gonna set our shooting state to true, set our can shoot to false, start shoot is gonna equal to our time, and shots is gonna be equal to 0. So now we're gonna write a little repeat loop, and this is gonna work for both auto and semi-auto weapons. So we're just gonna do this. We're not gonna do ammo yet in this video, so I'm not gonna include ammo stuff. But basically, we're gonna repeat shooting until shooting is false, or we're actually an auto weapon. This is basically a do while loop, so it'll run whatever's in here at least once, which is what we want. And to set shooting to false, we're just going to go into the input ended and basically type the same thing. So we're just going to make sure we're shooting as well. So if we're shooting, then we're not shooting anymore, right? Let's do the recoil. So some of this recoil math is really suspicious, and honestly I was just playing around with math until it looked kind of right. So let me show you what that looks like. This is not supposed to go in here, it's supposed to go inside here. Right, so basically what I'm doing here is I'm seeing how many shots I've taken, and based on the number of shots I've taken, I'll use one of these recoils. So if I've taken like 5 shots, then my recoil is gonna be this value right here. And I set our initial recoil to just the base recoil value, so this is the minimum recoil of everything. It's gonna go up by 5, and it's actually gonna go to the side by 10 as well. So when this happens, there's gonna be a couple things that we're gonna be calculating. We're gonna calculate if our weapon is out of control, like comparing the time and the initial time. And if that is the case, then we start swinging our recoil to the left and right using a sine wave. Otherwise, if we're still kind of in control, but not in the initial spray, just like the initial accurate spray, then we do it by a cosine wave. You can change this to sine if you want. I just thought it was cooler. And then for the randomness of this weapon, there's not going to be any on the z-axis. But if you want there to be, you can add stuff on the z-axis. Otherwise, it's just going to take the random value between this number and this number, the first number and the second number, and apply it to our recoil. And if we have a suppressor or something, then we can dampen the recoil like that. And otherwise, we just add the recoil to our recoil spring. And then in our reset recoil time, we subtract the same recoil, so it basically resets. Cool. But all this doesn't really do anything until we update our render loop, which is right here. So what do we need to change to our render loop? Well, we need to apply our recoil spring. So camera, I usually just do this. I put a camera.cframe equals camera.cframe times that, or simply you can use times equals. Basically, it's just camera.cframe is equal to camera.cframe multiplied by whatever we have after. Great. So now we should have some recoil, but our character is still having like schizophrenia. He can't see anything, but somehow he's getting recoil. Our gun has no kick either. It's just kind of weird. Our camera is just gonna float up. So let's add some recoil or some actual kick to the weapon, so then our player doesn't look like he's having schizophrenia. So let's do that. See that over here I've done gun spring.velocity is plus equal to kick. Well, it's the same concept as the recoil. We need to apply it, but this time we need to apply it to the view model. So let's do that. Let's apply rotation and position to our view model. This should work. So now let's play our little game and see if anything has changed or if we have any errors. I don't think we should have any errors. Alright, okay. So the problem with that is that we actually didn't wait our cooldown, so we need to actually wait the cooldown, otherwise this thing is going to run a billion times. And this should go very last. There should be actually something in between here, and we can just mark this as to do. So let's see what happens. I can shoot the weapon, and as you can see, there's some recoil. There's literally nothing shooting. And for some reason our character seems to think that something is shooting. So let's fix that. In our to-do, we're going to be doing the actual bullet rendering and all of that. But in order to render a bullet, we need to know where our bullet is going and where it's starting from. This is the mother of all raycast weapon stuff. But basically, we're just going to do a raycast, check if there's something that our raycast hits. If it hits something, then our end position should be exactly where that ray hits. Otherwise, it's just going to go in the direction of the camera, multiplied by the range. So mouse has like an orange line because we didn't define mouse. Let's get mouse. So it's me player get mouse. Simple. And now that we have a get mouse, okay, where was I? Right here. Everything should be fine. What happens when we shoot though? What happens if we do hit something? What happens when we don't hit something? It should be pretty much the same, and we're not going to worry about this yet, but essentially we need to tell the server that we've attempted a shot, and we can't actually send this thing over to the server, so we have to make a raycast result table, and I've actually put in a little bit of extra information, the origin position of that as well. If we hit something, then we should send whatever we hit, right? The normal distance position start. But if we didn't hit anything, then all we have to actually send is just the end position, the range, and the origin, and then we tell the server, right? We're not going to worry about this yet, right? We're going to actually just do the bullet rendering function. So I'm going to call this function render bullet, and we're going to pass in start, end, and then whatever results that we got from that. So where am I going to put this function? Well, I'm just going to put this function in a random spot. You can put it wherever you want. As long as it's in the script, you know, don't put it in a different script, otherwise it won't work. And I'm gonna call this result, because that's what it really is. Now, as you can see, we have all of our effects here, and my code is gonna be based off of this organization. Don't do it based off my organization. Put it in a folder somewhere safe, somewhere where you keep all your other effects. I'm just doing this for the sake of time. And a lot of this code that I'm about to just put down is very simple. It's a lot of VFX code, but basically what I'm doing is I clone our bullet and I position it, I parent it to the workspace.fx, and I position it so that it's in between our start position and our end position, and it'll face our end position and have a size where a length of our distance, basically the distance between the start position and the end position. All that really does is just make the bullet line in the right spot. And then for the attachments, I'm going to position the attachments so that they are at the start position, end position are facing the right directions as well. And then that way our beam, the beam texture looks right. And then for the flash, I'm just going to clone the flash particle, put it in the beginning attachment, so at the starting position, and make it flash with 3 particles, so it looks a little bit random. The spotlight is going to be cloned as well. We're going to parent the spotlight to the starting position of the weapon, and then we're just going to flash it really fast. So, nice. If result, then result.instance, then this is basically just checking if we've actually hit something, and if we hit something, did we hit a humanoid? If not, let's draw a bullet hole. And that's what the bullet hole here does. It puts it at a position that is facing the normal direction, or basically the surface direction. Parent it to the workspace.fx, and then we do task.delay for 1 second and then destroy it. So in the past, I actually used debris service for this, but that was pretty old and not very good. Use task.delay from now on instead of debris. Task.delay runs on the newer pipeline. It's way faster, more efficient. So you should overall use this over debris because debris is now slow. So yeah. Now, if you look over here, besides this, you can comment this out if you want to test it. You should be able to see that we are shooting. So let's see. Okay, yeah, it shoots. We can see a big old laser, and you'll see that if we hold down, we're shooting a lot. It's going in a big recoil pattern. But obviously something's wrong. Why is our bullet not removing? Well, simple. We need to destroy the bullet, and that again is going to be using task.spawn or test. You could use task.delay here. I use task.spawn because I wanted to get rid of this as well. You could use task.delay for this. Wait, delay by 0.1, set this to false, then do another wait for 0.5 and then destroy the beam. That's one way you can do it. That's just the way I did it. Kind of weird. Let's see it now. Okay, cool. So now we can actually see a bullet. But our player is still schizophrenic. Why? Because if we go on the server, no one else can see this. None of the other players will be able to see this. So we need to tell the other players that, wow, I'm shooting, right? So that's where this remote and stuff works in. And we're also going to do all of our damage here too. So I'm going to add a couple dummies just so we can test this. So I'll put this guy in here and I'll duplicate him a couple times. Cool. And then in our local script here, we need to obviously define our remote. For the sake of this video, I'm just going to throw a remote in here and I'm just going to call it gun. Over here, I'm going to define this. Just put it right here. Cool. Remote equals replicate storage.gun. Cool. Now, no more orange lines. We're all happy. Let's do it. Let's do our little server script. Add a script. Cool. Now on the server side, there's really not that much we have to do, but since a lot of you guys been saying stuff like, bro, your scripts are so exploitable, man, fix your exploitation stuff, I'm gonna do a very basic example of a sanity check so you guys understand what I keep on saying about doing stuff on the client and then verifying on server. So first, we're gonna just check if our result or our R table over here is valid, right? If we've actually hit something, that means we have some stuff to do, right? If we didn't actually hit something, we don't gotta verify anything, because in the end, nothing really happened. Now, if we've hit a player, gotta do a couple things. We're gonna keep a little counter that I like to call the sus count. It's like a little indicator of how suspicious the shot was. And the reason why I use the sus count and not immediately ban the player if something looks suspicious is that sometimes there's a little bit of latency and some like in-game things that make shots look kind of suspicious. It could be a little bit suspicious, but it's still a valid shot. It's still a real shot. We don't want to ban the player for that or have any mishaps, because a lot of anti-cheats do have that problem. Now I'm going to show you guys a couple examples of sanity checks. They're super basic ones. Now basically, if player.character.head position minus our result.origin.magnitude is greater than 5, that probably means that the position that we're shooting from is really far away from our player. And that's really suspicious, so we're going to add something to the sus count. Now, we're also going to do another check, and we're going to check if we can actually get to that position from that shot. So we're going to do a new ray cast from here. Cast that ray, and then if we've hit anything, hold on, let me zoom out so you guys can see the full thing. Alright, if we've hit anything, then we check if the thing that we hit is actually the one that we wanted to hit. If these two things match up, if result matches up with this ray, then we're all good. If not, then we add one to the sus count. Now, if our sus count is, we could probably do this all the way at the end here, or actually, let's put this, move it up here. If our sus count is less than 2, right? If our sus count is less than 2, or in your case, however you want the threshold to be, then our shot is actually valid, and we should indeed do our damage and stuff, right? Otherwise, we just don't do anything, or you could put an else here. You could do something like warn if you want to log this. This is suspicious. I should kick, right? Now you can do the same thing for our replicator as well. If you don't want the player to be spamming the replication remote and just like render a billion bullets on other players' screens to lag them out, you can also use the sus count outside too. It's a way more efficient way of doing it, but this is just an example. For the replicator, I'm just going to grab all the other players and then I'm going to fire the remote back to them, and I'm going to send them the same result that the sending client sent. Now, on all the other clients besides the sending client, we're going to have a listener to render the bullet. So I'm going to put it down here. On client event, we get sent our bullet data, and we're going to render a bullet from the origin to the ending position, and then everything else is stored within here. So now when I play the game, hopefully I'm not too sus. I won't get any okay, no warnings, nothing. So yeah, these are all valid shots. I'm gonna shoot this guy, see headshot damage, works, and yeah, everything's working pretty nicely. You probably test this with a friend or test it in studio with like the double server thing where you can just like spawn your own server. You'll see that the bullets indeed replicate, and the range is pretty far on this thing. You can decrease the range, and yeah, I'm able to kill things, I'm able to shoot. There's recoil. You'll see that like the recoil pattern actually works. You can do whatever you want to the recoil pattern. If you want to reduce the recoil whenever you're aiming, you can by using our little dampener here. So yeah, besides that, that's about it from me today. Once again, if you like this tutorial, make sure you like and subscribe. If you want to see more from this tutorial, the FPS tutorial, for example, if you want to see stuff like third person view model arms, comment that below. Or if you think the hit scan is too easy and you want to do projectile, let me know too. There's enough people that say they want to do projectile. I'll do a projectile version of this with like actual bullet travel time and physics and all that. But besides that, that's it for this video. I hope you guys liked this one. I certainly had a lot of fun making this, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.